Urban agriculture is booming, but there's often a hidden danger lurking in city soils: lead. A recent University of Illinois study showed universally elevated lead levels in soils across Chicago, an urban ag hotspot. However, a lower body weight child of about 60 pounds would need to eat only 80 pounds of tomatoes per week, still quite a bit, but a lower threshold of consumption. It's good news for urban agriculture, but there's a potential caveat for home gardeners and other urban agriculturalists. It's not the fruits I worry about, it's the practices of tillage and planting. That's where you get exposed, Margenot says. If you magically have no exposure to contaminated soils to get to the fruit stage, or if you mulch the heck out of the soil and wear a suit and respirator, you're golden. But, of course, we all know it doesn't happen that way. That's because when we work contaminated soil, plant into it, or track it into our homes, we end up inhaling it. Lead can also end up in the fine dust on the skin of tomatoes, leafy greens, and especially root vegetables. With improper washing, we eat it right up. And, depending on the soil lead concentration, a little can have big health impacts. In their study, Margenot and co-author George Watson planted Roma tomatoes in Chicago backyards with soil lead levels between 77 and 1206 parts per million, ppm, exceeding the natural background lead level of 21 ppm and generally surpassing the Illinois EPA threshold of 400 ppm for inhalation risk. The researchers wanted to see how much lead ended up in the fruit with no soil treatment and when the soil was amended with various phosphorus-based treatments shown to reduce lead uptake by humans via the dust inhalation or particle ingestion routes. We chose to test teaspoon as well as composted and air-dried biosolids, which are human feces processed by Chicago wastewater treatment plants. Their class of biosolids, which means they're tested for pathogens and heavy metals, Margenot says. I know there's an ick factor, but they're likely safer than steer manure you can buy at a hardware store. As it happens, none of the amendments lowered lead in the tomatoes. Lead uptake by plants into tomato fruits was already so low, even in highly contaminated soil, that the amendments had no detectable effect. To put it in numbers, the average tomato lead concentration across sites was 0.01 ppm in 2019 and 0.13 ppm in 2020. Both figures are far lower than the maximum allowable limit of 1.6 ppm set by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, for tomatoes. It was totally unexpected, and we couldn't explain it. But the soil lead levels didn't change across years and the fruit lead levels were still extremely low, Margenot says. So to me, it's two things. First, there's still so much basic research to be done on plant uptake of lead. We didn't even know to expect a seasonality effect. Second, and importantly, there's a very poor correlation between total soil lead and lead uptake. Margenot advises backyard tomato growers not to panic if they're growing in lead-contaminated soils. But again, gardeners and urban farm workers have to be super careful with how they till the soil, cover the surface, and wash the fruit to minimize exposure. So if we're talking about low-cost ways to deal with lead, this would be one good resource in the city. Margenot also recommends agricultural practices that require minimal soil disturbance, such as agroforestry and perennial fruit production. George P. Watson, Andrew J. Margenot. Fruit lead concentrations of tomato. Solanum lycopersicum L. Grown in lead-contaminated soils are unaffected by phosphate amendments and can vary by season, but are below risk thresholds. Science of the Total Environment. 2022. 836-155076 doi. 10. 1016, J. Citote NV. 2022. 155076 University of Illinois College of Agricultural, Consumer and Environmental Sciences. Tomatoes, but not farm workers, gardeners, safe from soil lead. Science Daily. Science Daily. The 21st of July 2022. ift.tt/J6GZAZI. University of Illinois College of Agricultural, Consumer and Environmental Sciences. 2022, July 21st. Tomatoes, but not farm workers, gardeners, safe from soil lead. Science Daily. Retrieved July 22, 2022 from ift.tt/J6GZAZI University of Illinois College of Agricultural, Consumer and Environmental Sciences. Tomatoes, but not farm workers, gardeners, safe from soil lead. Science Daily. ift.tt/J6GZAZI. Accessed July 22, 2022. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.